What's up, guys? Welcome back to another review. Today we're taking a look at Y2K, an R-rated horror comedy that drops this weekend. So, it's New Year's Eve 1999. Jaden Martell and Julian Dennison play two quote-unquote high school losers. They decide to attend a big party because Jaden Martell's crush, played by Rachel Zegler, is going to be in attendance. And while they're at the party just chilling, enjoying themselves, the Y2K bug turns out to be very real and much, much worse than anyone ever predicted. The computers become sentient, begin assimilating household electronics, and set their sights on destroying humanity. As far as the premise goes, that sounds like a lot of fun, right? So I was actually born in 1999, so I may not be in the demographic that will perhaps get the most out of this, but I'm at least age adjacent to the target audience. That's right, this movie has a lot of nostalgia in it. I would almost describe this as 90s nostalgia, the movie. There is a gratuitous number of needle drops. We see Blockbuster, old school computers, gaming systems, 90s slang. It's all there, and all of these low-hanging fruits ultimately serve to distract you from the fact that this movie has very little personality of its own. First of all, these characters just suck. I don't think I liked a single one of them aside from Jaden Martell's character. A lot of them feel like dollar store versions of the characters from Superbad, a film that I love, but this is just a poor imitation. And many of them are simply bland stereotypes, and every single gag and joke comes down to how excessively the characters fit their stereotypes. It all feels so overdone. It's also very light on emotion. There are scenes that try to convey emotion, but I never really felt anything for these characters because they feel so poorly constructed, and the film as a story is very rushed. As the movie progresses, there's a large focus on this budding romance between Jaden Martell and Rachel Zegler, and I just didn't really feel like there was anything there. The chemistry was not sold to me. But honestly, my biggest problem with Y2K is that it delivers on very little of what was promised by the marketing. I went into this just hoping to see a lot of man versus machine schlock, and there's very little of that. You know, robots fighting humans, it's kind of the whole premise here, but so much of this film is occupied by the characters walking around in the forest, discussing mundane topics that have nothing to do with the automaton apocalypse that they currently live in. And look, I know this is the directorial debut of Kyle Mooney, who has done work for SNL, and he's more of a comedian. This is his first time making a feature film, and I'm sure there were some budgetary restrictions that prevented them from going big with the action sequences. But it often throws logic out the door for the sake of cheap gags and jokes. For instance, we never see any police, no military, nothing, just a bunch of high school kids taking a stand against this machine uprising. I know I just complained about the lack of action, but there was one really cool fight scene in which the stoner character faces off against a giant amalgamation of various electronics. I thought that was really well executed, it was funny, it was entertaining, and I wish the movie was more like that specific scene. So in the end, if you grew up in the late 90s or even the early 2000s like I did, I definitely think there's some overlap with some of these nostalgic beats. You might find some entertainment value in this. There were people in the auditorium that I saw this film in that were laughing consistently. And humor is very subjective. I just didn't laugh a lot personally. And this is the type of film to prioritize that goofy slapstick humor over all the other elements that I was hoping would get a little bit more of a focus. For instance, some characters that I would find interesting. I don't know, maybe some gore, practical effects, some man versus machine action. Those things are a lot harder to find in this film than I thought. Even the trailers promise some gore, and there are a couple of kills that are pretty bloody, but those are mostly in the first half of the film. The second half goes in a completely different direction, and one that I found to be fairly derivative and boring. Maybe it just needed a higher budget, but nevertheless, this is a big dud for me. I'm gonna give Y2K 2 stars. As always, if you do see the film, I'd be delighted to know what you think of it down in the comments, especially if you're someone who is more acquainted with this time period. Granted, I still feel like I knew a lot of the songs in this. I recognized a lot of the visual callbacks to that time period. So it's not like this isn't a movie for me or that it was impossible for me to connect to it. It just felt like it was relying on nostalgia to compensate for its lack of personality, which I kind of stated earlier in this review. Before you take off, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.